On this session, I'm going to talk about, kind of back up a little bit and talk a little bit about public speaking fear and where the fear of speaking comes from. So if you really want to eliminate public speaking fear, we're going to give you some really good tips on that today. Just to kind of give you a little bit of background. Over 2 decades ago, when my team and I created the Fearless Presentations class, we did that to help people eliminate public speaking fear. And after training, 20,000 plus people over the last 25 years or so, our instructors have really discovered a few simple truths about stage fright and speech anxiety. And once you understand these secrets, then you can really reduce the fear that you have when you stand up to speak. So in this episode, and really maybe the next couple of episodes, I'm gonna kind of pull back the curtains a little bit and show you how anyone can reduce public speaking fear. So in this session, I'm going to talk a lot about the fear of public speaking, what it is, where it comes from, how you can kind of get rid of it, and just so you know, the since the symptoms of this type of fear are so common, so many people have this. A lot of times presenters will actually have questions about the fear. Why do I have this? Where did it come from? How the heck do I get rid of it? That kind of stuff, right? So most people feel like they're the only ones who are experiencing, the butterflies in the stomach when you stand up to speak, or the shaky voice or the shaky hands. However, just about every speaker has some type of nervousness when they present in front of a group. For instance, if the person has had a bad experience in a speech at some time, then even if that was a long time ago, by the way, he or she may still feel a lot of that nervous energy. And if the speech is in front of a larger audience and there's a bigger risk of failure, then that person may experience a full blown kind of panic attack. We feel those things. They're real. They happen. So as a result, a lot of people who feel just a little bit of stage fright will a lot of times avoid public speaking situations altogether, and that actually intensifies that nervousness. So a lot of times the things that we're doing to try to reduce the nervousness actually makes the anxiety get larger. So the good news is, though, is that as far as anxiety goes, this one is actually pretty easy to conquer. There's a simple step-by-step process that you can go through. And once you go through this process, your confidence is gonna soar. So let's kind of start off by talking about what it is and where it comes from. What is this fear, this public speaking fear, and how did I get it? Right? And then we'll talk about how to get rid of it. So anytime you try something for the first time, you're going to feel nervous, or you're going to feel some type of anxiety, even just a little bit about that thing. So if you kind of remember back to when you were a little kid and you got on a bicycle for the first time, or if you're an adult and you haven't ridden a bike for a while and you get back on it, that there's a little bit of nervousness there, right? Am I going to make a fool out of myself? Am I going to fall over and scrape up my knees and that kind of thing? Or maybe the first time when you were a teenager, when you tried to drive on the freeway, all right? I mean, those are situations where we're going to feel nervous because we're doing that thing for the first time, or we're doing it for the first time in a long time. So the reasons why we tend to kind of remember situations like that, like riding a bike or driving a car for the first time, is that in those situations we feel an immense threat to our safety, right? Or at least our ego, right? But to a lesser extent, a lot of times we're going to feel nervous about anything that we try for the first time. For instance, that nervousness can kind of pop up even in things that don't really have a lot of security involved. Like, for instance, when I got my first iPhone, the Apple iPhone, and I went to the App Store the first time, and I kind of noticed that all of these apps were like, it says free, there's no charge for it. But I can remember how nervous I was the very first time that I hit that free app button. I was scared that, I was going to end up getting some kind of recurring charge on my phone that I was never going to be able to get rid of, because it was something that was new. Now, before this, I felt sometimes, even before that instance, at times I might have felt kind of nervous when I entered a credit card on a website for the first time. those are things that when we kind of do them for the first time, then some nervousness is going to be normal, and it's going to happen anytime we try something new. But the amount of nervousness that you will tend to feel will depend a lot on how safe you feel doing that thing. The more imminent the threat to your safety, the more nerve-wracking that activity will be, because your fight or flight mechanism is going to kick in. For instance, my heartbeat increased really, really, really dramatically the first time that I went bungee jumping. Actually, the only time I went bungee jumping. I'm never going to do that again, right? But it increased a lot more in that situation than it did the first time I bought a book on Amazon. I was still nervous the first time I bought a book on Amazon, but my heart didn't start beating fast or anything like that. But when I did the bungee jumping thing, though, I had to kind of push a few more deep breaths before managing to take that leap and jump off the platform. However, that was not the case with my first online purchase. So just kind of keep that in mind. When you're in a situation that, obviously an online purchase, somebody could steal your credit card or something like that, but I don't really have a fear of death in that situation. So as a result, my anxiety is not going to be as huge. It's not going to be as big as what might occur in something that's kind of more life-threatening. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of times the amount of fear that we will feel, the amount of nervousness that we're going to feel, is going to really depend on the amount of risk that we're assessing. We're going to talk about that in just a moment.